In a country where the truth is what the government says it is, how does one of the most secretive regimes in the world keep its people in the dark? North Korea, a name that conjures visions of a hermit kingdom, is well known for its severe political isolation. But have you ever stopped to ponder the roots of this isolation? It's not just about geographical barriers or political seclusion. It's about something far more menacing and profound. This is a tale of a country's iron-fisted control over information. Through a sophisticated propaganda machine, the totalitarian regime of North Korea has managed to create an impregnable fortress around the flow of information, both into and out of the nation. Visualize a society where every single piece of news, every book, every piece of music, and every speck of data is rigorously regulated and filtered by the authorities. North Korea is not a figment of a dystopian novel. It's a real-life illustration of state-controlled narratives. The state media is the only news source. Internet access is a luxury for a chosen few, and foreign media is strictly prohibited. This reality has a profound impact on every aspect of life in North Korea, a country where the narrative is entirely dictated by the government, and the citizens are kept oblivious to the world outside their borders. The result? An isolated and brainwashed population denied the right to question, to challenge, to think independently. But the question remains, how does North Korea maintain such an iron grip on information? Let's delve in. Before we delve into the rise of the propaganda machine, let's take a step back and look at its origins. Enter Kim Il-sung, the founding father of North Korea. A man of humble beginnings, he rose to power in the aftermath of World War II, establishing himself as the supreme leader of the newly formed Democratic People's Republic of Korea. His ascension marked the beginning of the Kim dynasty and the birth of one of the most enduring and pervasive propaganda machines in history. Kim Il-sung introduced the Juche ideology, a doctrine of self-reliance that promotes the idea of North Korea as a nation capable of standing alone against the world. Juche quickly became the state's official ideology, a blueprint for its propaganda efforts. It served as the foundation upon which the regime built its narrative of strength, self-sufficiency, and resistance against foreign influence. The regime used every available medium to propagate the ideology and to foster a cult of personality around Kim Il-sung. The state-controlled media portrayed him as a heroic figure, a divine being who single-handedly liberated the country from colonial rule and foreign invaders. He was depicted as a godlike figure, the father of the nation, whose wisdom and leadership were infallible. This narrative was reinforced through constant glorification in all forms of media. Newspapers, radio broadcasts, films, and songs were all used as tools to extol the virtues of the leader and the state. The message was clear. Loyalty to the state and its leader was not just expected, it was a moral and patriotic duty. This cult of personality was not limited to Kim Il-sung. It extended to his successors, creating a dynastic rule that has persisted for over 7 decades. Even today, the Kim dynasty is portrayed as a lineage of divine beings, the saviors and guardians of the nation. It is through this constant glorification and the relentless propagation of the Juche ideology that North Korea has managed to maintain its iron grip on information, shaping the perceptions and beliefs of its people, and keeping them isolated from the outside world. Between the genesis of the propaganda machine and its rise lies a crucial factor: state control of media. In North Korea, the government controls all media outlets, ensuring that only state-approved content reaches its population. This is achieved through a network of state-controlled media organizations that have a monopoly over the dissemination of news and information. The key player is the Korean Central News Agency, or KCNA, the state's official news provider. It is the primary source of news for all media outlets in the country, dictating the narrative that is to be followed. Every news story that is broadcasted or printed must first be approved by the KCNA. Then there's Rodong-Sinmun, the official newspaper of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea. Its pages are filled with articles that glorify the regime, extol the virtues of the Juche ideology, and portray the country's leaders as infallible beings. It is a daily dose of propaganda delivered right to the doorsteps of the people. State television and radio broadcasts follow a similar script. They are filled with programs that promote the state's narrative, glorify its leadership, and demonize external enemies. The content is carefully curated, with every news story, every documentary, every song designed to reinforce the regime's ideology and its cult of personality. This is not just about controlling the flow of information. It is about shaping perceptions, molding opinions, and manipulating emotions. It is about creating a world where the state's narrative is the only truth, where loyalty to the leaders is a virtue, and where external influences are seen as threats. This is the reality of media control in North Korea, a reality where the state holds the reins of information, steering the minds of its people towards a carefully crafted narrative. Between the state's iron grip over media and the rise of its propaganda machinery, we find a key strategy: constant repetition of messages across all platforms. This echo chamber effect is designed to reinforce loyalty to the regime and the Kim dynasty. From the moment a North Korean citizen wakes up to the moment they go to sleep, they are bombarded with state propaganda. It's in the newspapers they read, the radio broadcasts they listen to, the television programs they watch. It's even in the music that plays in the streets, with songs praising the leadership and the Juche ideology. But the indoctrination doesn't stop there. It's embedded deep within the education system, with school curricula designed to instill loyalty from a young age. History textbooks paint the Kims as heroic figures and the nation's saviors. Lessons are filled with tales of their supposed feats, their wisdom, their benevolence. Even mathematics problems are often framed within the context of the regime's narrative. From the earliest stages of their education, children are taught to view their leaders with unwavering reverence and their ideology as the only path. The reinforcement of propaganda also spills over into mass events. Gigantic parades march through the streets of Pyongyang, displaying the might of the military and the unity of the people. They are spectacles of power and loyalty, with citizens waving flags and banners, cheering on their leaders. And then there's the Arirang Mass Games, a grand spectacle of gymnastics and artistry. It's a showcase of national unity and discipline, with thousands of performers moving in perfect synchrony, creating a mesmerizing tableau of images and messages that glorify the regime. The aim of all this is clear: to create an environment where the state's narrative is not just accepted, but internalized, becoming an integral part of each citizen's identity. It's a world where every song, every lesson, every event serves as a reminder of the regime's power and the supposed greatness of its leaders. It's a world where loyalty is not just expected, but ingrained, where dissent is not just discouraged, but unthinkable. This is the power of the echo chamber, the power of repetition and indoctrination. Between indoctrination and the rise of the propaganda machine lies a crucial tactic: the creation of external enemies and the manipulation of reality. The North Korean regime has long used the United States and South Korea as scapegoats, blaming them for the country's economic struggles and political isolation. State media routinely portrays these nations as aggressive imperialists, bent on destroying the Korean way of life. This narrative serves a dual purpose. It justifies the regime's strict policies and military focus, and it unifies the population against a common enemy. The distortion of reality doesn't stop at foreign powers. The regime also manipulates economic data, painting a rosy picture of a self-sufficient nation, prospering under the wise leadership of the Kim dynasty. Any economic hardship is blamed on international sanctions or the machinations of enemy nations. In times of crisis, like the devastating famine in the 1990s, the regime downplays the severity or outright denies the existence of the problem, maintaining the illusion of a prosperous and resilient nation. Alongside this, the regime promotes stories of heroism, sacrifice, and martyrdom. These tales, often centered around the Kim family or ordinary citizens standing up to external enemies, are designed to instill a sense of duty and loyalty among the population. They serve as a call to arms, encouraging citizens to work harder, endure more, and sacrifice in the name of their country. Whether it's creating external enemies, manipulating reality, or promoting tales of heroism, the North Korean regime has mastered the art of propaganda. It's a carefully constructed narrative designed to maintain control and loyalty, and it's a narrative that has proven remarkably resilient. In the midst of crafting enemies and heroes, the regime has built an impenetrable wall of isolation. This is no physical wall, but a digital one. North Korea is one of the most digitally isolated countries in the world. The internet, as we know it, is virtually non-existent. Instead, Citizens have access to a state-controlled intranet called Kwangmyong, a closed-off network with limited content, all of which is government-approved. Foreign media is strictly prohibited. Movies, music, books, and even news from outside North Korean borders are considered dangerous contraband. The regime's fear of external influence is so great that the possession or distribution of foreign media can lead to severe punishments. The state's digital surveillance apparatus is extensive, monitoring phone calls, text messages, and internet activity. Those found guilty of consuming or sharing foreign media may face harsh penalties ranging from years of hard labor in prison camps to public execution. This fear of punishment creates an atmosphere of self-censorship, where citizens police their own behavior and that of those around them. Yet despite these extreme measures, information still finds a way in. An underground network of brave individuals smuggles foreign films, TV shows, and radio broadcasts into the country. These smugglers risk their lives to break the information blockade using ingenious methods to evade detection. They transport USB drives loaded with foreign content across the border, float balloons carrying leaflets over fences, and even broadcast radio signals from secret locations. The risks are enormous, but so is the potential payoff, the chance to expose North Koreans to the world outside their borders, to offer them a glimpse of a different reality. However, this is a dangerous game. Those caught participating in these activities face severe consequences. But the desire for knowledge, for a connection to the outside world, is powerful. It's a testament to the human spirit's resilience and its unquenchable thirst for truth, even in the face of unimaginable adversity. In the next scene, we will explore the roots of this propaganda machine, tracing its evolution from its early years to the present day. Between the impenetrable wall of isolation and the rise of the propaganda machine lies a paradox that is as intriguing as it is disturbing. The constant barrage of propaganda has profound psychological effects on the North Korean population. The state's narrative becomes the only truth, the only reality, creating a distorted worldview that is far removed from actual global events. The omnipresent propaganda paints an image of a utopian society under the benevolent rule of a godlike leader, an image that is often at odds with the harsh realities of life in North Korea. This carefully crafted narrative fosters a deep-seated loyalty to the regime. The state is seen as the protector, the provider, the savior. This loyalty is reinforced through rituals such as mass games, parades, and daily pledges of allegiance. These rituals serve a dual purpose. They not only express loyalty to the regime, but also reinforce it. Participation in these activities is mandatory, creating a sense of unity and shared purpose that binds the population together, further reinforcing loyalty to the regime. But it's not just about loyalty. The propaganda machine also instills a deep-seated fear of dissent. The state's narrative paints a grim picture of the consequences of dissent: punishment, isolation, even death. This fear is not unfounded. The regime's ruthless crackdown on dissent is well documented. The fear of reprisal, coupled with the constant surveillance, creates an atmosphere of paranoia and self-censorship. Citizens police their own thoughts and actions, wary of anything that could be construed as dissent. The constant propaganda also reinforces social control. The state's narrative dictates what is acceptable behavior, what is the norm. Anything that deviates from this norm is seen as a threat to the social order and is swiftly dealt with. This discourages any form of independent thought or action. The state's control over information, coupled with the fear of dissent, creates a society where conformity is the norm, where citizens willingly participate in their own oppression. But this is not the whole story. Despite the state's best efforts, information still finds a way in, offering a glimpse of a different reality. The next scene will take us back to the roots of this propaganda machine, tracing its evolution from its early years to the present day. To gauge the present, we must delve into history. North Korea's propaganda machinery has its origins in the reign of Kim Il-sung, the nation's founding father. It was under his rule that the groundwork was laid for a unique system, one that could control and mold information to a degree seldom witnessed elsewhere. The state wielded propaganda as a tool to cement power and maintain a firm grip over its civilians. A meticulously spun tale portrayed Kim Il-sung as an infallible, divine leader who single-handedly freed the nation from foreign intruders. This tale was integrated into every aspect of life, permeating textbooks, newspapers, radio broadcasts, and cinema. It was a ubiquitous force that molded thought processes and behaviors. The role of state-controlled media was instrumental in this endeavor. The government's monopoly over all media forms ensured that only the sanctioned narrative reached the populace. Every news piece, every movie, every song was meticulously chosen to underscore the state's ideology and the superiority of its leaders. However, it was more than a mere one-sided information flow. The state also aimed to regulate incoming information from abroad. Foreign films, books, and broadcasts were stringently forbidden, leading to an information void that was filled solely by state propaganda. The objective was to craft a reality where the state's narrative was the only accepted truth. This was not merely about information control. It was about influencing identities and convictions. It was about creating an environment where dissent was unimaginable, and allegiance to the state and its leaders was a given. It was about crafting a world where each citizen, whether willingly or not, was a part of the propaganda apparatus. This was just the commencement of an intricate and protracted journey of information control. When reflecting on the daunting challenges of living in such a society where truth is manipulated and controlled, one must consider the impact on the North Korean people. The weight of a life lived in the shadow of a single, unchallengeable narrative is immense. The suppression of independent thought and the stifling of any form of dissent shapes not only the societal structure but also the mindset of each individual. The constant barrage of state-controlled propaganda creates an environment of fear and compliance, subtly indoctrinating the populace into a rigid belief system. The state's monopoly on truth consequently leaves little room for personal freedom or individual expression, with the entire society effectively becoming cogs in the propaganda machinery. The resulting societal structure is one of uniformity and unquestioning loyalty, where any form of dissent is not just discouraged, but is inconceivable. In such a society, the individual becomes subsumed by the state, their identity shaped and defined by the narratives they are fed. The impact of this level of censorship and control on the lives of the North Korean people is profound and far-reaching, affecting every aspect of their daily existence. As the world stepped into the digital age, so did North Korea's propaganda machine. In the late 20th century, as the world was embracing the internet and the wealth of information it had to offer, North Korea was simultaneously stepping into the digital age, but in a starkly different fashion. Instead of opening its doors to the World Wide Web, the state crafted an intranet, a state-controlled version of the internet, that only provided access to state-sanctioned content. This was a clever adaptation of the propaganda machine to the digital age, where the state could control not just the message, but also the medium. The rise of this state-controlled internet has profound implications for the North Korean population. On the surface, it appears to offer the citizens a glimpse into the digital world. But in reality, it is another tool in the arsenal of the state to control information and shape public opinion. The state-controlled internet ensures that the population remains insulated from the outside world and the global discourse. It effectively creates a digital iron curtain, shielding the population from any information that contradicts the state's narrative. Technology has also played a critical role in disseminating propaganda. Digital billboards, state-run news websites, and even video games are all employed to reinforce the state's narrative. North Korea has even ventured into the realm of social media, creating state-run accounts to project its version of reality to the world. The state uses these platforms not just to disseminate propaganda internally, but also to shape its image internationally. However, the digital age has also presented new challenges for the propaganda machine. The proliferation of digital devices has made it increasingly difficult for the state to control all sources of information. Smuggled flash drives and DVDs, illicit radio broadcasts, and the black market for foreign media have all posed significant threats to the state's information monopoly. And yet, despite these changes, one thing remained constant: the state's control over information. The digital age may have transformed the methods, but the goal remains the same: to maintain an iron grip over the minds of the North Korean people. Fast forward to today, and the propaganda machine is more pervasive than ever. The current state of propaganda in North Korea is an all-encompassing, omnipresent force, a silent yet thunderous symphony that shapes the reality of its citizens. In the realm of media, the state maintains an iron grip. All channels of information broadcast a single narrative, one that glorifies the leadership and underscores the supposed supremacy of North Korea. Newspapers, radio, and television channels all are cogs in this well-oiled propaganda machine. They churn out content that is meticulously curated, ensuring that the state's narrative remains unchallenged and unaltered, but the control extends beyond the traditional media. In today's digital age, the internet, too, falls under the state's purview. North Korea's version of the internet is a walled garden, a heavily censored and monitored space where only state-approved content can bloom. International websites are mostly inaccessible, replaced by a handful of state-run sites that echo the same narrative of nationalistic pride and loyalty to the regime. This control has a profound impact on the people of North Korea. It shapes their understanding of the world, limiting their perspective to what the state deems appropriate. It influences their beliefs, their values, their perceptions, and even their dreams. It creates an environment where critical thinking and dissent are not just discouraged, but actively suppressed. However, this control is not absolute. Smuggled foreign media, black market radios, and whispers of the world beyond North Korea's borders do seep through the cracks. These glimpses of the outside world offer a stark contrast to the narrative spun by the state, sparking curiosity, doubt, and sometimes a daring thirst for the truth. So, what does all of this mean for the people of North Korea? It means living in a reality where information is not just controlled, but manufactured. It means navigating a world where the truth is not a universal concept, but a state-dictated construct. It's a world that is as fascinating as it is terrifying, a world where the propaganda machine doesn't just exist, it thrives. Living under the constant influence of propaganda, North Koreans face a unique reality. This reality is a world where every word, every image, and every piece of news is meticulously crafted to fit the narrative of the state. A narrative that paints an image of a country flourishing under the benevolent guidance of its leaders. The impact of such stringent information control on the population is profound. It shapes their worldview, their beliefs, their perceptions of right and wrong. It's a world where the state is always right, where dissent is not just disapproved of, but unthinkable. This is the power of information control, the power to shape reality. However, the control of information extends beyond just propaganda. It's about limiting access to outside information as well. For North Koreans, accessing foreign media is a dangerous endeavor, fraught with severe consequences. The state's monopoly on information is so absolute that even the most innocuous pieces of foreign media are seen as threats to the regime's control. The internet, a source of infinite knowledge and diversity for most of us, is a highly restricted and monitored platform in North Korea. In such a landscape, the role of the international community becomes vital. The fight against information control in North Korea is not just about the political rights of its citizens, but about their basic human right to access information. It's about creating cracks in the iron curtain of information, about letting a ray of light into the darkness. Organizations and individuals around the world are working to penetrate this information blockade using innovative methods to smuggle in outside media. Their efforts are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and our inherent desire for freedom and knowledge. So the next time you freely access information, remember the Hermit Kingdom, where every word, every image, and every piece of news is a carefully crafted narrative by the state. Because understanding the impact of information control is the first step towards challenging it. In our journey through North Korea's information control, we've delved into the depths of state propaganda, censorship, and the profound impacts these practices have on the North Korean people. But what can we, as global citizens, do about it? The first step is awareness. By watching this documentary, you've taken that step. You've chosen to inform yourself about a reality far removed from your own. The next step is to spread the word. Share this documentary. Discuss it with your friends, your family, your colleagues. The more people who are aware of the situation in North Korea, the more pressure there is on international bodies to take action. Moreover, you can support organizations working to challenge the information blockade. They smuggle USBs loaded with foreign films, ebooks, and news into North Korea, providing a window to the world for those who have none. Your donations, your time, your voice can make a difference. Lastly, remember to appreciate the freedom of information you enjoy. Next time you browse the web, consider the immense diversity of perspectives you have access to, a luxury that is unimaginable for many in North Korea. Thank you for watching our documentary on North Korea's information control. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about history, Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, History Documentary. Together, we can hope to challenge the Iron Curtain of information, one view at a time.